I want to talk about food. And I actually first have a question for you. How often do you come home from work thinking what to make for dinner? And then actually having no clue. Well, it happens to a lot of people, and this lack of inspiration. And I'm kind of curious to find out about your motivations then, what to pick. Is it based on convenience? Is it based on your food cravings? Is it based on your budget? Yeah, whatever, it probably is not circularity. And don't worry, I don't think that counts for any of us yet. But I would really like to share with you why this should be, because it could really improve your life. So what I'm going to talk about in this TED is really how we can move from a linear economy food system more in towards a circular food system. And to do that, I think it is important to go a little bit to the past, because we actually created a food system after the Second World War. And the purpose of this system was really to make sure that we would never have hunger again. And we actually succeeded really well in doing this. And the system that we have built is very good in many ways. We, for example, now have experienced so many different food cultures from all over the world here in the Netherlands. We can go into stores and buy food and really be sure that it's safe because of all the safety regulations that we installed. But we also, with the efficiency, made it very cheap, so also accessible to everyone in this country. So these are a lot of the benefits of the system that we have right now. But at the same time, we're with 7.5 billion people on Earth, and we know that growing the way we did is actually not possible. Because we are also confronted with a lot of negative externalities. Think about, for example, the fact that we are depleting our soil, but also the way we treat animals at the moment. But also other things, for example, that hunger and obesity live next to each other at the same time. And the fact that there are many chronic diet-related diseases. Those things really make me think, how can we change that? But also another thing that I would really like to highlight is that at the moment we are throwing away 1/3 of all the food that we produce. That's a massive, and that is something that really is the result of the system we have at the moment. If you look at food waste and you zoom in a little bit on this issue, you see also that this 1/3 of food waste that we create is very much like scattered all over the food chain. So it starts with farmers throwing away a lot of food. It starts with retailers, producers, but actually consumers are also together. We throw away so much food. And it is not only the food that we waste, it's really about the things that you throw away. So for the agricultural process, we are using a lot of water, land, energy, but also our CO2 footprint. So it's very much related to the production and the transportation of food. Actually, by wasting so much, you just throw away all of these really beautiful resources. So thinking about those things and realizing that we are on Earth now with 7.5 billion people, many people say, okay, like we need to take action, we need to change. And the circular economy is now really seen as a way to tackle a lot of these issues. Because it would be great if we have renewable energies, if we can use our resources without any end. It would be great to live in a society where there is actually no waste. Because if you have a waste stream, you can use it for a research in the next production system. But then again, we are also together in a food system with a lot of actors, different actors that have to cooperate together and that work together really efficiently in the way they do now. So here on this picture, you can also see all the actors involved. So we're talking about NGOs, supermarkets, the industry, scientists, the government, farmers. And if you want to change a system, where do you start? It's not that easy. So I really feel that the current pressure of the market, so the pressure for growth, the economic pressure on this system, really locked us down into pointing at each other and really in some kind of passive mode. So I want to share you my personal story, really to show how I think we could all start to unlock this system a little bit. And it actually started when I finished my studies. I started working for Albert Heijn in the sustainability department. And I heard about the numbers about food waste, but it was really when I started working in a supermarket store that I realized that all the food, that a lot of that food is actually still really good. So that was for me really an eye-opener. So together with some other people, I came up with the plan to open a pop-up restaurant. And we opened a really nice place in Amsterdam, where in the morning we would collect food with our electrical van, and at night we would cook delicious products. And when we opened, people were so amazed by the things that we were making, and we also thought, okay, hey, this is something we actually need to continue. So the first tip is really to start small and local and try to scale up if it's possible. And when we started to open more restaurants, we really also started to see that the movement could become bigger. So we currently have 3 restaurants and a food truck, and every day we collect food, and at night we cook 4 or 3 course dinner. We make lunch and we make breakfast, and it is really the power of our creative chefs that can really create this change. So far we have been able to rescue 300,000 kilos of food, which is an amazing number. We also have a sorting facility, like a food rescue center, where we on a daily basis sort fruits and vegetables. And we are since a couple of months also selling that to other restaurants. So you can really see how this could snowball, how you can create some kind of snowball effect and really expand the impact of rescuing all this food. Well, and then of course, to make it circular, the food system is so extremely complicated and complex. You don't go from a linear model to a circular overnight. So it is really the small steps that we can take now that can help us forward. And a very easy model that we always use is a kind of ladder where on top it still says prevention. So if we see different food streams, we always still try to first prevent waste from occurring. But if that's not possible, then a second life for human consumption is always the best pick. If not, animal feed. If not, we make biogas. And that really is the lowest option in the Netherlands, I think. So to make that also a little bit practical, or give a practical example how this model then works, back to theory, is that we started brewing beers. I think you will all taste it after the presentation. We have made a pale ale and a weisse made from surplus potatoes and surplus bread. And these are typical food streams that are being widely wasted in the Netherlands because we produce so many of it. And while we were brewing that beer, we also were in the brewery a lot of the times, and we found out that the spent grain, so the byproduct of the brewing process, is actually really nutritious and healthy. So I started talking about it with my chef, and together we came up with the idea to start making granola. And this granola is made of spent grain, which was normally actually mostly fed to animals and still is. So here you can really see how this model works, that you try to upcycle the actual waste streams that you encounter. And as you can see, the plate is also very beautiful. And this is really also part of the changing the stigma around the issue of food waste. It is very important that it looks nice, that the people that come to our restaurants also really have the feeling that they are having a normal night out, because then they don't really have to go out their way too much. So we are facing now still a big world population growth. It's estimated that by 2050, we will have to feed more than 9 billion people. And if we want to feed them all in a nutritious, delicious and healthy way, we all have to take action. And we are all part of the food chain, so we can all do this. So my advice to you tonight would be, if you go home and you're a little bit lacking inspiration on what you should cook, really start with your fridge and your cupboard first. Just look at the products you have there and try to come up with a good and delicious meal that you can make from it. And then if you go shopping, which is obviously perfectly fine, buy products, and if you use half of it or just a little bit of it, try to use conserving techniques. We also have an amazing cookbook about conservation techniques, such as smoking, pickling, drying. And it is really true that that is also the best way to add flavor, because the best products on earth, like cheese, are all fermented products. So I wish you a very good dinner tonight. Thank you for your attention.